You just opened a small shop. Or a small app. Or a small anything. You have 0 customers. Then you get 1. Then 5. Then 20. You think the big moment is coming later, when you have thousands. But the real answer is far stranger. The moment that decides your entire future already happened. It happened in your first 100 customers, and you probably didn't even notice. Think about that for a second. Not your best quarter. Not your biggest launch. Your first 100 people. Why would something so small carry so much weight? Here is the strange part. Businesses do not grow like a pile of sand, one grain evenly stacking on the next. They grow like a fire. And a fire does not care about the wood you add later. It cares about the first spark, and exactly what it touches. In 1943, 2 researchers named Bryce Ryan and Neil Gross studied farmers in Iowa. They wanted to know why some farmers adopted a new type of hybrid seed corn almost immediately, while others waited years. The seed was objectively better. It grew faster. It resisted drought. Yet adoption crawled for over a decade before it suddenly exploded. Why would a superior product take that long to catch on? Ryan and Gross found something surprising. It was not about the seed at all. It was about who tried it first. A small group of farmers, more connected, more trusted by their neighbors, adopted early. Everyone else was watching them, not the seed. Once those early adopters spoke, the rest of the county followed within a few short years. The seed did not sell itself. The first 100 people sold it. This idea became the foundation for a much bigger theory. A sociologist named Everett Rogers took the Iowa findings and built what he called the diffusion of innovation. He mapped how new ideas spread through a population in a curve, starting with a small sliver of early adopters, then rising through the majority, and finally reaching the stragglers at the end. Rogers proves something almost every founder learns the hard way. You do not win over a market. You win over a tiny fraction of it, and that fraction wins over everyone else for you. So who are your first 100 customers, really? They are not your customers at all. They are your messengers. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Every one of them is forming an opinion about you right now, and they are going to repeat that opinion, word for word, to someone else. Not your ad copy. Not your mission statement. Their version. Have you ever thought about how much of your business is actually being run by someone else's mouth? This is not superstition. It is measurable. A researcher named Robert Cialdini spent decades studying how people decide what is good or safe or worth trying. He found a pattern he called social proof. When people are uncertain, they do not look inward for the answer. They look sideways, at what other people like them are already doing. A product with 3 warm, specific, believable stories behind it will outsell a product with 1,000 cold impressions. Why? Because trust does not scale from advertising. It scales from people. This is why your first 100 customers behave like a multiplier, not a milestone. Each one is either quietly adding fuel to a fire or quietly starving it before it starts. There is no neutral customer in that early group. Every single one is doing one of 2 things: talking about you, or forgetting you. Now here is the twist almost nobody expects. The first 100 customers are not chosen by luck. They are, whether you realize it or not, chosen by you. Not consciously. Not on purpose. But through every small decision you make before you have any customers at all. The tone of your first post. The price you set. The one problem you decided to solve instead of 10. All of it acts like a signal, and signals attract specific kinds of people. Loud signals attract loud people. Careful signals attract careful people. Have you ever noticed how certain products seem to gather almost the exact same type of person, again and again, without ever advertising to a type at all? That is not coincidence. That is the founder effect. The term originally comes from biology. In evolutionary science, The founder effect describes what happens when a small group of organisms breaks off and starts a brand new population, maybe on an island, maybe in an isolated valley. Whatever traits exist in that small founding group become wildly overrepresented in every generation that follows. Not because those traits are better. Simply because they were present at the start, when the population was small enough for a handful of individuals to shape the whole future gene pool. A business is not so different. Your first 100 customers are your founding population. Whatever they value, whatever language they use, whatever expectations they carry, gets baked into your culture long before you're big enough to notice it happening. If your first 100 customers were bargain hunters, you will spend years fighting a discount-seeking crowd. If your first 100 customers were quality-obsessed, quality becomes your gravity, pulling in more people just like them. You did not choose your customer base once you launched. You chose it in the first 10 decisions you made before anyone showed up. This is where the economics get interesting. A researcher named Fred Reichheld, working with Bain & Company, spent years studying customer loyalty across hundreds of companies. He wanted to know what actually predicted long-term growth. Not marketing spend. Not product features. He found a single, simple question mattered more than almost anything else. Would this customer recommend you to a friend? Reichheld discovered that businesses driven by strong early word of mouth grew 2 to 5 times faster than their industry average. The engine was never the advertising budget. It was the emotional temperature of the very first people who tried the thing. So why do so many founders obsess over customer number 10,000, while treating customer number 4 like an afterthought? Because growth feels invisible in the beginning. 10 people is not a headline. It does not look like traction. It looks like nothing is happening. But underneath, something enormous is happening. A pattern is forming. A story is being written by strangers, in rooms you will never enter, about who you are and who you are for. By the time you have 10,000 customers, that story has already calcified. You are simply meeting the demand your first 100 quietly created. There is a mirror to this in your own life, even outside business. Think about the first impression you gave a new friend group, a new job, a new community. Did it not shape, almost permanently, how that group treated you from then on? People rarely re-evaluate you from scratch. They anchor to the first version of you they met, and then interpret everything after through that lens. Businesses are treated the same way, except the first version is not one person's memory. It is 100 people's memory, spreading outward, compounding with every retelling. You stop chasing volume in the beginning, and you start chasing the right texture. Not the most customers, the most representative ones. Not the loudest reaction, the most honest one. Every founder wants to skip this stage. It feels slow. It feels small. But this stage is not a delay before the real business begins. This stage is the business. This is where its personality is being decided, one conversation at a time, whether you're watching closely or not. Because here is the final, quiet truth underneath all of it. You do not build a business and then find your first 100 customers. You find your first 100 customers, and they build the business back onto you, in ways you will spend years discovering. The seed does not decide what kind of plant grows. The soil does. You just opened a small shop. Or a small app. Or a small anything. You still think the big moment is coming later. But it already happened. It happened in the first 100 people who noticed you, and whether you meant to or not, you already decided who they would be.